Hello again, welcome back everyone. This is Liquor Hound with you. Today we're going to be doing part 2 of my bourbon and Canadian whiskey collection. Let's go ahead and get started with the Canadian whiskeys, and we'll start with Crown Royal XR. The Crown Royal Extra Rare is called that because it's using the last remaining whiskeys from the burnt down Waterloo distillery. Diageo, once acquiring Crown Royal, had closed down the Waterloo distillery in 1992. A year later, in 1993, it caught fire and burnt down to the ground and was a total loss. Fortunately, not all the barrels were kept in that warehouse, so that is what is being barreled as the XR. Next to it, we have Crown Royal Limited Edition. The Limited Edition is my personal favorite of the entire Crown Royal line. At half the price of the XR, you're going to get full of flavor and tremendously smooth. The only bad thing about the limited edition is that it is limited to Canada. So unless you're up north or you have access to maybe a few duty-free shops, that one's going to be a little harder to find. Pike Creek, Gooder, Ham, and Worts there in this lot 40. This little trifecta here was put out by the Gooder, Ham, and Worts distillery. The Gooder, Ham, and Worts distillery was Canada's oldest and longest running distillery. Unfortunately, it closed down in 1991. It is now a visitor center up there. But these three can probably be found if you do a little searching. Seagram 7, and this 40 Creek Barrel Select, and 40 Creek Small Batch Reserve. The 40 Creek line is created by John Hall, and John Hall's little thing is that he was a winemaker that got into the whiskey making business, and he applied his trade of how you create wine to whiskey. Instead of taking each grain and blending them together and then distilling it, he actually distills each grain separately, then marries them before barreling. His newest release is a Double Barrel Reserve. I haven't tried it yet, but from what I understand, he's using refill bourbon barrels and one of the barrelings, and it's supposed to be really, really good. Next we have Crown Royal Special Reserve and Crown Royal Black. Personally, I don't really care for the black too much. To me, if you're going to go for that deeper, if you need that deeper Canadian whiskey flavor, you might as well go into bourbons, and you'll get that there. Speaking of bourbons, we have Old Tailor 6 and Old Charter 10. The Old Charter 10 here is an old tax stamp bottling. I personally don't care for the Old Charter 10. The Old Charter 12 is a different story. That is wonderful. The Classic 90 is great stuff. It was discontinued a while back, but if you see it, you need to pick that one up because I highly recommend it. Bond and Lillard, his bottle is 1972. No longer around. I'm pretty lucky to have that one. This Cabin Still is a 1978 bottling. Again, tax stamp, and very good. Woodford Reserve and Woodford Reserve 4 grain. The 4 grain is kind of hard to find in itself, but if you do find it, the one you need to look for is this one right here, batch number 2. Batch number 2, according to Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible, is much better than the batch number 1. The batch number 1, he said, was not quite there. He said, but the batch number 2, I think we got a score of like 96. Moving along, the Van Winkle line. We have the red Van Winkle here, the 90 proof version, 10-year-old, and then the 107 10-year-old. Next we have the Van Winkle 15, Pappy Van Winkle 20, and the Van Winkle Rye, which is a 13-year-old. And that'll lead us right into the ryes, which includes Old Overholt. I had a friend of the family suggest this one to me for a Manhattan. He said it's at 80 proof. It's got plenty of flavor and makes an excellent one, and he was absolutely right. Next we have Rittenhouse Rye and Rittenhouse 100. Stepping back, we have the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, which are all those tall, slender bottles. Buffalo Trace has been putting out excellent stuff for many years, and these are no exception. The Thomas H. Handy Sazerac at 129 proof. And here's a special bottle, the Sazerac 18. And this one was barreled in the summer of 2000. Actually bottled in the summer of 2000, barreled in 1981. This was the first year Sazerac put out an 18-year-old. And let's see, as a matter of fact, it won Whiskey of the Year in 2001 for that specific bottle right there. And Sazerac 18 has been doing wonderful things ever since. I think it won, as a matter of fact, it did win Jim Murray's Whiskey of the Year in 2010. And that includes all whiskeys, Scotches, Canadians, Bourbons, everybody. So Sazerac 18, can't go wrong with it. Next we have George T. Stagg. George T. Stagg is a 141 proof bourbon. You would think it would totally burn you up, but it is wonderful stuff. Matter of fact, according to Whiskey Cask and Malt Advocate, it's been getting like 96 scores and 97 scores. Well, next we have William LaRue Weller and the Eagle Rares. The Eagle Rares here, I have the 10-year-old at 90 proof and the 17-year-old at 90 proof, a 2008 bottling. The reason I show you this 90 proof here and this 10-year-old is because right beside it I have one of the old 10-year-olds of Eagle Rare 101 proof. Now I was going to show you the color difference between the two. As you can see, there's quite a bit of difference. I'm not sure if it's all the watered down or maybe just the way they were distilling it back in the day, but the 101 is tremendous stuff. Back row we have Knob Creek, signed by Fred No, son of legendary Booker No. And here's part of their collection, the Bakers, an old bottle of it. And here's a signed newer bottle of it. Beside that, we have Jim Beam's 200th anniversary, 1795 to 1995 bottling. And over here, let me slide back over here so we can get to these Bookers, because these are a pretty special bottle over here. We'll start with the regular old Bookers here. Bottled at 126.6 proof. This is pretty much what you're going to find in your local liquor store nowadays. Black wax top. But this one, with the brown wax, very special bottle. This one was bottled in 1979, which means it was barreled in 1971. It was bottled at 121.4 proof, and that one is impossible to replace. There we go. No government warnings on the back, so you know it's old. The government warnings, I think they came into play, I think, in 1989. So if it doesn't have that on the back, you know it's pre that at least. So that's it for my collection of bourbons. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned. I think I have rums to go and vodkas and gins. So thanks for watching. Take care.